Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, Season 8, Episode 24. So, as with a lot of these episodes, especially lately, after the hiatus, this is being recorded early. This is being recorded on Tuesday, September 4th. And you are not seeing this until, I think, it's going to end up being October 6th. I believe that's how it's going to end up going. Yeah, it should be. Either way, I'm pre-recording it early because it was released early and I want to avoid spoilers. So I just finished also pre-recording my one for episode 23, which by this point you'll have seen, presumably. And that was amazing. But now we're getting into 24, and this is one I actually have not heard anything of. With the last one, I heard that people were saying it was really good. And this one, I've heard nothing, like crickets. So I don't know what it's going to be about, what it's called, who wrote it, anything. I don't even know if people think it's good or not. And this is episode 24, so this is the final episode before the finale as well. The only episodes after this are 25 and 26, which is the big finale for Season 8. So yeah, excited to see where we leave off on the penultimate episode. Last season's penultimate episode gave us the Diary of Star Swirl at the end of it. It built into the finale in an excellent way, so I'm wondering if this one will as well. Maybe, maybe not. It's too hard to say. I don't think they're going to try to do quite the same thing as last time, of course, but hey, you never know. Either way, we're just going to get into this. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So that being said, thank you so much for tuning in today, and I will see you at the reaction. Okay, and we are back, and we will begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. Okay, so this episode was okay. I didn't hate it or anything. I didn't like love it though either. It was okay. So Spike is talking a lot early in this episode about his well, who he is basically. And looking back on it in hindsight, it was obvious that it was kind of building up to the idea of this one dragon of sludge being his father. At the time, that's what we believed. And again, in hindsight, it's obvious that it was kind of building up to that idea. But then it's revealed in the end that he's not his father, and so Spike's parentage, his like real dragon family, is still completely up in the air. So Sludge was just some random dragon who was trying to like get on in the cozy castle life, basically to be a mooch, like the very definition of a mooch. Now this episode brought up some very interesting thoughts for me. Early on, after the entire father thing was revealed, I was like, okay, let's see where this goes. And then as it starts to go on, I'm starting to see some things. Some things about the way he's talking to Spike was rubbing me wrong. And especially while he was singing, I started noticing a lot of things like he's kind of just taking advantage of him at this point, isn't he? Which is how it went. And I started thinking about one of my favorite bad dad stories of all time. I don't know, I know there are a lot of you who watch my channel who are from other countries, so I don't know how familiar some of you might be with the show, but one of my favorite bad dad stories of all time is from The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was a sitcom starring Will Smith. I believe it ran in the late 80s, early 90s. And there is, the concept of the episode is that Will, and that's his character's name as well, by the way, his father comes for him. Now, Will's father has kind of been very absentee from his life. And so when his father comes, he's excited. He wants to really get to hang out with his father and spend time with him. But by the end of the episode, his father abandons him again. And Will has this breakdown. He gets angry, he gets upset and sad, and he starts yelling, and at the very end of his little rant, while Uncle Phil, his uncle, who has been basically a father figure for him throughout the entire series, who he's been living with in Bel-Air, Uncle Phil's listening to him this entire time. At the end of his rant, Will, in tears, in some of the best acting I have ever seen, asks one simple question that even just thinking about is making me super emotional right now. He asks Uncle Phil, why doesn't he just love me? And Uncle Phil, without a second's hesitation, pulls Will into a hug, proving himself to be a true father figure to Will. And that's how the episode ends. It doesn't end on a happy note. It ends with Will in tears, being embraced by his uncle, yes, but in tears after being betrayed by his absentee father. After getting his hopes up for such a long time, throughout the entire course of the episode, he's let down again, and I kind of got those vibes watching this. Spike's father wasn't quite absentee in the same way, because Spike was orphaned as an egg. And so, it's a little bit of a different situation. And his father wasn't building up his hopes and then abandoning him again. This dragon, pretending to be his father, rather, was making him believe in a lie just so he could take advantage of it. But the same kind of concept is still there. He was still taking advantage of his son. Or, well, again, who we assumed to be the son. At the time when I had been thinking about this parallel. Before it was revealed that he wasn't really his father. It was still taking advantage of what was perceived to be their son in a terrible way. And it just reminded me of that. Even though, again, it's not exactly the same, and there are a lot of differences, especially with Sludge not actually being Spike's father, but still. Now, this episode, at first, like, I believed it. I believed he was his father, and I thought he was just going to end up being a shitty father. But things started to come to mind as I continued to watch. Things, like, weren't adding up, especially when he was initially telling his story about what happened and why Spike was orphaned as an egg. There were a lot of just holes in that story. And there was even the fact that he kind of came up with the idea of that prison area, that prison island area, kind of on the fly. Like, it was very, very clear. In fact, he mentioned Klugetown. After Pinky mentioned Klugetown, I was like, you know Klugetown? You've been to Klugetown? I think that was originally going to be his choice, because Klugetown, as we know from the movie, had a lot of people who were like trappers and stuff in there. So it's actually very believable that a creature could be trapped there. And that's probably what he was thinking, what Sludge was thinking. And that's probably where he was going to go with it at first. But after that, like, he made a point of, like, saying, like, of how this is this prison island was a place that the Princess Twilight had never been to. He made a point of pointing that out, or had never heard of, or whatever. And it's just like I started thinking about it, and then it's like, oh, he gets trapped in the prison island, but how did the egg come into Celestia's possession? Like, he would have still had the egg, right? Because he didn't give it up, and if they stole the egg, then, like, there's a lot of questions that would still raise. And on top of it, it never explained, what happened to Spike's supposed mother. And there's probably even more that I'm just not thinking of at the moment, but the point is, there were some definite holes with his story that really started to stand out to me. And again, when he was doing the song and everything, and he started to show very clearly he was taking advantage of Spike, it really started getting those cogs in my head whirling. That's why there was points in this I really wasn't talking for a period of time. Because as I said, I was absorbing information, and I was really just processing and thinking about it all. Now, as I said, I don't really find this episode great, but I don't think it's bad necessarily either. So let's talk about that. So, the episode overall, like, it has a good concept, the idea of Spike's heritage being brought up, and the idea of a father figure and everything. And I think this episode I would have considered a lot better if not for the way it ended out. I think it would have been better if he had actually been Spike's father, and that he just didn't care about Spike, that he was just taking advantage of him. I think it would have been better if that parallel with the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air were more applicable here. Because I think it would have led to much more of an emotional depth, and it would still allow for the entire kind of lesson at the end of Twilight still being Spike's true family. That still would have been very possible and very believable in this way. Really, it wouldn't have changed anything about the moral, about the characters, and how the episode ended otherwise. The only thing it would have really changed is that, he would have been Spike's actual father. And I just think it would have been better, to be honest, because the big difference in that would be, instead of kind of feeling like it was almost a waste of time and kind of a cop-out, it would have felt like, instead, again, it would have been an emotional pull that felt like it was really tragic in a way, but also really happy that Spike does have this real family that he can stay with and everything. That's how I view it, at least. It's just, I don't know, I just feel like by having faked it and all, it doesn't mean as much. Like, the entire thing about Twilight being his true family, it doesn't mean as much. It's not as impactful as it would be if Spike's true family, like birth family, were assholes, or at least in case of the father. Plus there's the fact that Spike is one of those characters that people have been wanting to know the origins of for a long time. We've always wanted Scootaloo's family to show up and all these other characters, but we've always wanted to know Spike's actual origins, where he came from, why Celestia had his egg, yada yada yada. And this episode teased us with it. Because it's like, oh, we're going to give you this information, but then we're going to basically reveal it's all the lie. And it's like, was that necessary? Did you really need to do that? Why couldn't it have been true? And have Sludge just be an asshole father who's not worth Spike's time of day? Again, I just think that would have been more impactful. I think it would have worked better. By having it all be a lie in the end, it's like, I don't know, it just feels like it's just throwing out what we as the fans want. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Either way, like I said, this episode, not great or anything, but not bad either. it's just kind of in the middle for me. You can take it or leave it. The song was kind of just okay as well. It definitely wasn't as good as the song from the last episode. But again, it wasn't bad or anything. So yeah, that's pretty much all I've got. If I left anything out that you want to hear my thoughts or opinions on, please tell me in the comments below. And just in general, please leave a comment. Tell me what you thought of these episodes. Tell me what you thought of Sludge and of the question of Spike's heritage. And thank you so much for tuning in. So for now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.
And though you've come through many obstacles, shed tears along the way, you're still standing, live, love, laugh.